The moment you talk about sustainability related jobs, people think it would be more aligned with the environment or something like that. The three circles meeting, which is economic, environment and social, and their meeting point is the sustainability. We are going through an era where there is a lot of challenges in terms of whether it is water or soil quality and all those things. This journey towards a sustainable economy has created what I will call as a level playing field. If you look across the globe, nobody has cracked the code. So whomsoever cracks the code are going to be the next leaders.
Hello and welcome to Planet, People, Profit. I am Sudipto, host of the podcast that dives into the world of sustainability and its impact on our lives, businesses, and the planet, brought to you by Outlook Business. In today's episode, we'll explore career opportunities in a climate, sustainability, and the environment, with a special focus on India's rapidly evolving job market. To help us navigate this exciting landscape, we have an incredible guest, Mr. Santhosh Jayaram. Mr. Jayaram, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
Your journey into the sustainability education space has been an inspiring one, and the story in itself. Why don't you share with the audience, the trajectory of your entry into the sustainable education space?
So I would say it's a very conventional to start with, since that just like any other student of that era, engineering. My bachelor's was in mechanical engineering. And then I joined the manufacturing industry, to be precise, cement manufacturing.
Okay.
And so first 2 years, I was a process engineer, and then an opportunity came by to do my master's in environmental engineering.
Okay.
And that, I should say, was the turning point.
That must have been 90s?
95.
Oh.
Yeah. So that must be the turning point for me to move into the sustainability space. So after completing my master's, I went back to the manufacturing. So I should say my career, first 9 years was in the manufacturing. Then the next 10 years, it was the carbon credit regime of the UNFCCC. The Kyoto Protocol has come in place.
Okay, pretty early.
Yeah, I moved into that space in 2002. And so the next 10 years, I should say I was like in that particular space of verification, validations, certifications, and that has been the kind of role. And then the whole of the sustainability management took up quite a bit in India. And that was the time when I joined KPMG. And of course, the ride with KPMG has been pretty good. Being able to develop one of the biggest consulting teams across the management consulting teams in India. And when I turned 50, I already had a idea that I should go back and teach. Teaching has always been a thing of interest for me, and I wanted to go back and teach. And that's how I kind of moved into academics, or I am starting to teach. And from this new year onwards, I am starting my PhD research as
interesting.
Well. Yes. So that has been the kind of journey for me.
So you'll be teaching and also be taught.
Yes, I will be a student as well as I will be a research scholar, plus I will be teaching.
Very interesting. Coming back to the basics on green jobs, a lot of people think that green jobs are the word itself, the term itself is a bit of a misnomer. So are we sort of looking at going into an era where, we used to have blue collar workers, white collar workers, then we have green collar workers. Are you heading towards that sort of a scenario, and what is your definition? How should one define green jobs, in terms of jobs which help to preserve or conserve the planet? So what is your definition of a sustainability related job?
See, I would say we would be mixing up terminologies here quite a bit, because green, as I would say, is that making it into a color is a little bit of a challenge, because then there are different shades of the color. And so rather than that, I would kind of look at it from a more sustainability related kind of jobs. And before I talk about the sustainability related jobs, I should say that we should step back and look at what is sustainability, right? I mean, because the challenge is that the moment you talk about sustainability related jobs, people think again, as you mentioned, it would be more aligned with the environment or something like that. See, the word sustainability in the current context, it all kind of evolved when the publication of limits to the earth or the limits to growth happened from the Club of Rome. And it was the starting point of this term called sustainability.
Which year was that?
It should be in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, and around the 80s, the so-called Venn diagram, which you popularly people know, the three circles, that came. Edward Barbier, the economist, was the person who brought that in, and who said the three circles meeting, which is economic, environment, and social, and their meeting point is the sustainability. Of course, followed by John Elkington and the others who defined what is called as the triple bottom line approach. And then the whole of the standard setting bodies like GRI and all took it out, and they brought on sustainability. And the whole of the corporate sustainability, all those kind of things started getting defined as this three bottom lines. Of course, in 2018, John Elkington wrote a piece in a Harvard article saying that it's time to recall, because people have started compartmentalizing it into these three different. So when he thought of triple bottom line, he was thinking about an integrated way of approaching these things. But having said that, yes, the social dimension also plays a big role into this. So when we look at it more from a sustainability angle, I would say that there are three dimensions in which you can look at jobs.
Okay.
One is every professional, every job will have to integrate sustainability.
Okay.
So, for example, whether it is a lawyer, whether it is an accountant, whether it is a management professional, I think all of them will have to integrate sustainability as part of their way forward, or even an economist for that matter, because that's the way it has to move forward. Or for example, even in terms of very hard skills, like for example, if you really look at a carpentry or any of those kind of masonry, they all will have to incorporate sustainability principles as part of how they work and how the things should be. And that has to do a lot with the educational system, skilling systems, and all those things, which will have to integrate this as part of it, because that's the only way we can go to a sustainable world.
Okay.
Right? So that's the one area. The second area is that there will be a requirement of more number of professionals in certain segments.
Okay.
Okay, because as we move, as you know, the energy transition is happening, and there are many various advances which are happening in the sustainability area. So there will be new sectors, new things which will get developed. So there will be a higher amount of professionals who would be required. Let me give you a classic case. Just before the Glasgow Climate Conference, the COP, UK came out with a subsidy program for improving the efficiencies in the houses, like bettering the insulations and all those things. The number of applications was so high that they didn't have enough competent people to deliver it. So they had to cancel that. So what I'm trying to say here is that these kind of requirements, when it comes, we do not have enough people. So there will be, like for example, water, wastewater management. Going forward, there is going to be high demand on those areas. So the second segment, what I would say is that there will be a higher demand for professionals in certain segments, which is something which would happen as we go by. The third one, which I would say is more of an integrator's role.
Okay.
People who are more on the policy, administration, or strategy, they will have to kind of bring in a thought process of integrating many things to move, whether it is a project or whether it is an enterprise or whether it is a country, to move into a sustainable economy. So there is a role of that integrators who will come in. So these would be the three dimensions of competence of skills which would be required going forward.
Interesting. Interesting you mentioned the skill aspect of the green jobs economy, if I can call it. Do we have enough number of skilled workers in India in the green space? What is your sense? And is there a gap that you find that needs to be plugged?
Definitely, yes. But again, I would go back to what I said is that I do not know when we say what is a green job. But having, what I said earlier was that there is a need for everyone to integrate sustainability as part of that. So, for example, let me give you, India has, about 37 skill councils. These 37 skill councils, let me give you an example. We have some automobile skill council, or let's say BFSI skill council, IT skill council, agricultural skill council. Now think about it. Each of these skills which is getting developed, they will have to integrate sustainability. So let me take a case of BFSI. Now this year in the budget, our finance minister, Sitaraman, announced that there is going to be a climate change taxonomy which is going to come.
Absolutely.
Now, the moment a taxonomy comes in, which means that it is what it is trying to do is it is going to look into how the finance sector is going to align with those taxonomy. How much finance is going into a particular direction is what is going to be monitored as part of the taxonomy. Definitely, the BFSI has to integrate this. So when we are talking about developing BFSI skill, which means that you will have to integrate this as part of it. Or for example, an automobile skill council. With the momentum which is happening around the EV, definitely the automobile skill council is already doing their best to move into that. Just look at the skill requirement of a roadside mechanic. That would change.
Absolutely.
Right. So there need to be an upskilling of many people, which would happen. Plus, what would happen is also some sectors naturally will have a downturn, and some sectors will have an upswing. And for example, in India, renewable energy has been kind of moving pretty up. I don't think we have any coal-fired boilers or any of those which has been announced or coming, right? So you can naturally see the kind of upswing of a particular sector and a downswing of the others. What it does is also that it puts a challenge to those people who are skilled in a particular segment. And that's where globally there's this terminology, what we say as just transition. Right? And the transition, whatever we do, has to be in a manner which is just socially. And for that, there is a huge amount of upskilling which is required in those segments. And for example, new dimensions of hydrogen coming in will require a different skill set or a updation of the existing skill set to move in that direction. What it does is these skill councils will have to now look at how do we do that just transition as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the traditional sectors, agriculture, construction, manufacturing? I know you would have captured some of the manufacturing aspects here, but agriculture and construction, it's a lot of unskilled and semi-skilled workers who are there. You see a transition for them happening? Do you see job opportunities coming up in that space?
The whole of the agricultural segment will also kind of change as we are already seeing, because we are going through an era where there is a lot of challenges in terms of whether it is water or soil quality and all those things, and also the choice of crops. And add to that the challenges from climate change.
Yeah, that's right.
The risk from climate change towards agriculture. So what happens with all these challenges now coming in, some of the traditional practices will be challenged, and that requires the stakeholders, whether it is the farmer or whether it is the institutions who work around it, have to kind of change. I know there are quite a number of research organizations in India who are looking into climate resilient agriculture. They are even developing crops which are more resistant. And of course, on the water management side, there is quite a bit of work which is happening on that side. But adoption of all these things will require a change of mindset, of course, and also upskilling.
Okay.
I know there has been efforts from state governments as well as from the central governments on this regard. But if you ask me whether the pace of which is good enough, I should say yes, the pace can be better, and we need to kind of move at a faster pace in those directions, because some of those impacts have started precipitating. So we don't have the time to kind of adjust to that. So you talked about agriculture.
Yeah.
The other one is manufacturing. Manufacturing, for example, already some of the top sectors are coming under scrutiny because of various geopolitical as well as climate related regulations which are evolving around the world, right? So the so-called hard to abate sector definitely is a challenge with, for example, there is a whole lot of discussion in India about CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism. So that what happens is that some of these sectors will have to move faster as part of their business continuity. And that really is something which some of the industry leaders know about it, and they are working towards it. But what it also requires is, as India, we need to kind of look at this as an opportunity, because this journey towards a sustainable economy has created what I will call as a level playing field.
Okay.
If you look across the globe, nobody has cracked the code. Right? So whomsoever cracks the code are going to be the next leaders. So there is a need for us to put in our efforts and resources for some deep tech research.
Okay.
And that deep tech research is required or will be important for us to take a lead. And that is an area where I have not seen still action. And that's where I would kind of say that we will have to focus more, whether it is private sector or whether it is from the government, whether it is from academia as well. Deep tech research in some of these dimensions will really help us to lead the way.
Interesting. Coming on mindset change, and especially for professionals or young people who want to have a career in sustainability, what would be your advice be for starters, say, for example, people who are starting out and they want to have a career in sustainability? What would be the key issues they should look at?
I don't think it will be quite different to any other advice people usually give to the youngsters. I would also say follow your passion, right? Because anything which you do, I would only say that integrate the sustainability principles.
Okay.
It's more like ethics. Right? So even if you are following a particular passion, you need to be ethical.
Absolutely.
So it's as similar as that, right? I always relate sustainability to what happened with quality in the 90s. 90s, quality was a big word. Right? You had a whole set of standards coming in. You
Quality
had
council.
the quality councils. Then if you look at the industry, you had a quality control, quality assurance, different departments, right? But today when you look back, you won't see those, because quality got integrated to everything, what you do. And today quality is being taught in any stream of things as well. So the advice would be that you have to follow your passion. But then when you are following that passion, ensure that you integrate the sustainability principles. And it's quite like, or it's as similar as that you have to follow the ethics.
I'm pretty sure you'd be getting a lot of requests from people in mid-career stage, who are looking at exploring a career in sustainability. How do you sort of go about advising them?
Yeah, it's a kind of a common question which I get on a regular basis.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I have had questions from, for example, finance professionals who come to me and say that I've been 15 years in this profession and I have now a deep interest in sustainability. So how do I switch careers? And my advice would be that why would you put all those 15 years of your experience in risk? The way is that there is quite a bit of movement which is happening around, for example, sustainable finance. And you are the best person. If you are a finance professional, you are the best person to lead that.
Okay.
So just upskill yourself on some of the periphery of your core competence. So if you are a finance professional, upskill yourself around some of the sustainability areas in your profession. And that makes you unique. And that helps in terms of the movement, or that also helps in kind of integrating the thought of sustainability into an everyday life, everyday job. So my advice to the mid-career professionals is that don't put at risk all the experiences which you have gathered. For example, whether it is a procurement professional, I mean, you have to integrate sustainability as part of your value chain propositions. We just had yesterday the amendments which came for the BRSR regulations from SEBI, which had changed some requirements for value chain sustainability reporting. So naturally, the procurement professional also have to kind of get on board in terms of how the value chain performs in terms of sustainability and all those things. So they will have to update themselves in terms of how they integrate sustainability into the procurement process, right? So likewise, you take any of those professions, you really will have to kind of look at, this is a must, right? I would say that I always relate this to surfing. So in surfing, what happens is that if you catch the wave early, you can surf long distance and smooth.
Yes.
In any case, the wave will take you to shore. It's your choice whether you want to surf long and smooth or you want to come to the shore tumbling and rolling. In any case, you will be kind of brought to the shore.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's up to each one of these professionals to kind of look at that this is a must going forward. So how do you upskill yourself and get ready towards that?
So upskilling, reskilling is something that's given.
Exactly.
If you have to be a sustainability related professional.
You will have to be a sustainability related professional going forward. There is no choice.
Okay.
You know, the whole world is moving in that particular direction. Of course, there can be some noises here and there for some time, which will keep on kind of repeating what the old time's sake. They will keep repeating, but I should say that there is only one direction this will go.
I was curious by one statement you made in one of your podcasts, and that statement stuck with me. It said, tomorrow's CEOs cannot be CEOs without understanding sustainability. Now, take us through that. What is it that would-be CEOs would be requiring to do so they're able to get that dream job, given this current landscape?
Okay, let me take it a little more philosophical first, and then I'll come back to it.
Sure.
I'm sure you might have read the Sapiens from Harari. In Sapiens, the book, the first print, the cover page was that, but later on prints, it was the first picture which was showed, is a handprint in a cave.
Yes.
Right?
I remember. Yes.
Yes.
That was the cover.
It's prehistoric. What was that person trying to tell? The person was trying to tell, I was here.
Yes.
So what I would say is that these are people, the CEOs of today, these are people who have a huge influence in their business, in their community, to their employees. These are people who have to decide as to what kind of handprint they leave as their legacy. Because they are at the cusp of things right now to change many things. And it's up to them as to what kind of handprint they want to leave. And it's also going to determine as to the decisions which they make, how that organization is going to survive the next 50 years or next 100 years, right? So from that matter, each one of these people, they really need to understand as to how sustainability will influence their business. So let me kind of articulate it through an example.
Sure.
2015, in Paris, when the COP happened, at the extended hours, suddenly we came out with a Paris agreement to limit the world's temperature to less than 2 degrees. Of course, later on it changed to 1.5 degree. At that time, how many CEOs thought that it would impact their business? It went as if, there was a declaration, good for the environment, and it was, people from various countries, the leaders of the countries participated, they agreed. Not many CEOs understood the impact of that. But come today, if you really look at how things have spanned, you can really see the kind of impact.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, the kind of impact it is kind of causing to the business, right? We discussed about the regulations which are coming in. We discussed about the rise of renewable energy from that time onwards to now, and the decline of some of these sectors. Many business models are at risk today. So going forward as well, there will be new dimensions. Just now we had the COP around plastics, although there was not much of agreement which would happen. But things like this, which were externalities to the so-called business model, will be forced to be internalized. And this is something as part of their risk and opportunity management, the CEOs will have to factor in their business models. So that's a very critical, time in which they are operating, that it has to be kind of looked at. There has to be investments made. There has to be resources allocated to move in that particular direction. And that's the role of today's CEO, and for the future CEOs to continue with that.
Interesting. But is the academic world sort of aligned with that thought? I would say, for tomorrow's CEOs to come, be so aware of the sustainability issues, and who are right now in, say, business schools, and say in graduation or business schools, is the academic curriculum, the academic world, is it aligned with that thought, or where are we in that space?
I would say no, we haven't kind of gone and tried to kind of change the curriculum or change the way in which we teach some of the things right now. Even today, if you go to a business school, sustainability is at best an elective.
Okay.
Or they will call some people to do some guest lectures.
I'm pretty sure you get a lot of requests.
Yes, I do. But, that half an hour lecture, yes, I can inspire some of those students, but then it's only half an hour. It's not part of their curriculum. It's not the course part of it. So it tends to fade. Rather than that, I would say that it also requires some changes in terms of very fundamental things. I just finished a book by Professor Stuart L. Hart, where he is doing quite a bit of work in kind of integrating sustainability to management studies.
Okay.
And he says that the current model of capitalism came in when capital was scarce, or the financial capital was scarce, and we thought the natural capital was in plenty. It was at an era the current model of capitalism came. Now we know where we are in terms of natural capital. So I think the whole of the economics will have to change, right? I always say even today we look at GDP as a measure of our progress, which came in post World War II.
That's right.
And mainly when US was looking at how to keep up their economy. And when we, the bigger you buy was considered as patriotic at that time in the US. So a measure like GDP came at that particular era. And if you produce more, if you consume more, and if you waste more, your GDP will increase.
Very similar to what's happening right now in India.
Exactly. So, some of the basic fundamentals need to change, and that has to come in from the academic world, right? So, there is a big need in terms of, like, for example, if you are studying for accounting or CA, without studying natural capital accounting and social capital accounting, it's not going to help in the future. There need to be a way of bringing in those accountings into the P&L.
Very interesting.
So yes, the start has to be at the higher education side. On the school side, yes, things have started. The basics of sustainability is being taught, but that's not being followed currently in the higher education system.
Okay.
The higher education system is still in a bit of an old era. And I think there we need to kind of integrate this. Just to give you, even for example, science or chemistry. Now, why should you have a separate stream called green chemistry? The whole chemistry has to be sustainable, right? So the way you integrate this should not be in the name of sustainability, but that's the way it should be, right? So I think there is a lot of work which has to be done in terms of, adjusting, I won't say adjusting, reinventing the whole of the curriculum on the higher education side.
I think material sciences is something which is going to see a lot of drastic changes going forward.
Exactly. And some of these dimensions did not get the desired or level of interest in the earlier times, but today it is getting, and it is, as I will go back to what I said, it's an opportunity. And as India, if we are able to kind of do this at the earliest, we definitely will have a longer way to go.
So what would be your advice to would-be CEOs, who are currently in, how should they prepare themselves? If the higher education institutions are not yet ready, but they need to be ready, how should they prepare themselves for this?
So, see, the key is to, any leader, we always say that empathy is a key quality of a leader, right? So I think the principles are the same in terms of leadership, but how do you apply it is something very critical. The challenge is that today we are driven by some market dynamics. Like, for example, a quarterly progress. Now, naturally, as a CEO, you are under pressure.
Absolutely.
You have to show that quarterly improvement. So, and there has been CEOs in the past who said that, no, I'm not interested in this quarterly thing. I'm here for a long term. And those CEOs have been successful as well. So I think the need for the people to prepare to go into that position and drive that is to understand that there is a higher degree of responsibility of them, not just to the shareholders, but to other stakeholders as well. So I think the overall thought process is today more concentrated, whether it is the education, whether it is your preparation, whether you are doing the current job, the overall concentration is on a shareholder primacy agenda. And that shareholder primacy agenda is kind of taking us away from the whole sustainability agenda.
which is the planet agenda.
The planet agenda plus people agenda.
Exactly.
Right? See, I would bring you back to say that when we say planet agenda, whether it is 1.5 degree, whether it is 2 degree, whether it is 10 degree rise in temperature, the planet will survive.
People will not.
There will be new species. What is at risk is for the so-called Homo sapiens.
Yes.
And by the way, Harari that book very clearly says that the exact translation of Homo sapien in English is wise man or wise being. Right? So I think being sustainability wise would be the right way for all of the people who are inspiring to be the CEOs to do it.
Coming back to the job numbers, and when we were doing some research, we found that I think last year, you also mentioned about it in terms of the energy transition space. That has been the biggest generator of sustainability related jobs or green jobs, if you may call that. I think around 16.2 million jobs were created last year. India itself had more than 1 million jobs in that space. ESG, which is environment, social governance, those jobs have been in news for the last few years. What is your take on the space? How is it going to evolve going forward?
See, when you say there were jobs created, I would say is that there was either a stagnation or a kind of a lesser this thing in some other segments as well.
Okay.
Of course, there are new sectors which evolve and which bring in new jobs as well.
Fair.
But the total number, for me, we will have to kind of normalize this thing. But as I mentioned, yes, renewable energy is going high. So, but then, as I told you, we don't have any new thermal power plants coming in, right? So there is, and that value chain, if you really look at the companies who are making boilers, companies who are making those equipments for the, well, there is a stagnation or there is this thing happening. So the new jobs would definitely evolve, and you will really require people like, for example, there will be dimension. We are talking about solar right now. There can be other dimensions, like, for example, India is betting big on hydrogen, and that definitely is going to bring in a new dimension. We are also talking about restructuring the grid. Microgrids, for example, are going to be something in the energy sector which is going forward, going to be critical. And so all these new dimensions will add new jobs. But I would caution that there are the existing sectors or the so-called conventional sectors which we are used to earlier, which will find a stagnation, and those things we need to look at how do we do that just transition.
Coming to some of the, there are a lot of myths around jobs, green jobs.
Yeah.
So also sustainability related jobs, So what are your top 5 myths or misconceptions that you feel you'd like to flag off related, sustainability jobs or green jobs, and which you've come across, and I'm pretty sure as a professor, as a teacher, you'd be coming across them on a daily basis. Myths you might like to burst.
Yeah, I mean, myths have helped people to come together. Let me bring it. So myths are not always bad.
Okay.
Okay, so if you really look at, there are many myths, especially, for example, many religious myths, have always helped in congregation, people having the same thoughts, and that has kept the people together. So there are many good things about myth. But to answer to your question, yes, there are myths we need to burst as well. And maybe I can talk about some of them. The first one I just talked about is the myth that all these things about is protecting nature.
Okay.
Because even today I see many people making these presentations with a globe in the hand, When they talk about sustainability, they talk about the globe in the hand and say protecting the nature. It's not about protecting the nature. It's
nature will find its way.
Yeah, nature will find its way. It is protecting the human species. There is a more selfish motive to all this, right? So I think that's the first myth. It's not about protecting nature, and we are nobody to protect nature. Let's
We
be
saw
very
that during COVID, I think. Some glimpses of it.
Exactly. So that way it is about protecting us. So there is a selfish thing. So I think that's the first myth I should say that we should break. The second myth, which I'm seeing it quite a bit especially in the social media and especially in platforms like LinkedIn, is that every resume should have ESG.
Okay.
It's kind of I don't know from where it comes in, but today if you really see, you'll find almost every resume saying that they are working in the ESG space, or I've interviewed even people who are experts in ESG, and I've written about it as well. And there was one interview which I conducted where I asked this person, okay, you say you are an expert in ESG. So I just asked him, what is IUCN? And that person came back and said, what does it got to do with ESG? Okay. Then I left that and I moved on with other things, like how do you do, for example, greenhouse gas accounting. I said, I'm not a climate change expert, I'm an ESG expert.
Okay.
Or what's a modern slavery act? No, I am not a social expert, I'm an ESG expert. What's a clawback policy? No, I'm not an expert in corporate governance, I'm an ESG expert. Now, I really do not know, if you do not know E, if you do not know S, if you do not know G, how are you an ESG professional? So, that is something which I am seeing, and I do not know what prompts people to kind of put this, but I don't think every resume needs that. Okay. And sometimes if you put that in the ESG, just like the interview I had, you will be exposed. So I think I need to burst that myth also.
Absolutely.
The third one would be, okay, with the complexities of the regulations which are happening around sustainability reporting. Today, there is a myth that the whole of the role of a sustainability professional is about reporting.
Okay.
So there is a general thought process which is evolving. And to some extent, I should say that even the sustainability professionals are also behaving in that manner as a grand excuse to do nothing else but reporting. Multiple reporting requirements, it definitely takes time, but it's much, much beyond reporting. So it's a sustainability professional means it is not just about sustainability reporting. So that's the other one. Then of course there is this tunneled view around climate change.
Okay.
Sustainability is all about climate change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, it's not. Yes, it is one of the biggest threats that as a human race we are facing, and there has to be a lot of work around that. It's a global agenda, and hence it gets a global appeal. But for example, in India, we are going to face a huge crisis in terms of fresh water. Right? So I think some of those local sustainability challenges get a bit less attention.
Diffused, I would say.
Diffused in the name of climate change. So I think sustainability is not just climate change. So let's look at that. The last but not the least, I would say, is mainly, in the current global order of a kind of a very highly polarized political lines. Today, the moment you speak about sustainability, you are left oriented. Now, when I say that, I should also qualify that I am not, coming from Kerala, I should also say that I do not believe left is real bad. No. Uh, you know, but the compartmentalization, or, saying that the moment you speak sustainability, that you are left oriented, is something which we are seeing in the current global order.
Are you referring to what some of Mr. Trump's
I mean,
speeches?
Yes, that's not. I mean, the whole of the Republicans that way, and the way in which they have been putting pressure in terms of the various funds and all those things has been in that particular way of thinking. But it's also spreading to other parts as well. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about sustainability, we are not against growth, mm-hmm. but we are in support of sustainable growth. The way in which we have grown have resulted in the current challenges.
Absolutely.
So the questions which are being asked is more about, don't we have another way of development which can sustain our children, our grandchildren? That's the question. So it's not about a left mentality over here. So that is another dimension which I think, I wouldn't say it's a myth, but yeah, I mean, the way in which the current thought process is something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen that in the last presidential elections. It was widely debated and reported.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you, Mr. Jayaram, for your insights and the fact that, you could sort of take us through the journey. And your journey, of course, has been a story in itself. So I'm really glad that we could spend time with each other, and the fact that, we could share your thoughts and your insights.
Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts. And hopefully I did justice to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.